he slept with my wife. I made him regret it. The clink of ice against glass was the only sound in the otherwise silent house. Sarah was out, again. Said it was a late night at the office, pushing for that promotion. I believed her. I always believed her. That was my first mistake. I took another sip of scotch, the amber liquid doing little to soothe the knot forming in my stomach. It had started small, a nagging feeling, a sense that something was off. The late nights, the hushed phone calls she'd take outside, the way she flinched when I touched her. Individually, they were nothing. Together, they painted a picture I didn't want to see. Then came the tie. A silk tie, a shade of blue I'd never seen her buy, crumpled on the passenger seat of her car. Not mine. Too expensive to just be lying around. David's favorite color. David, my best friend, my business partner, the godfather of my future children. The final nail was the burner phone. I found it tucked away in her underwear drawer, a cheap, disposable thing buzzing with a single message. Meet me. Same time, same place. The sender's number was blocked, but I knew. I just knew. The rage came later. First, it was a numb disbelief, a sickening emptiness that threatened to swallow me whole. I sat there, staring at the phone, for what felt like hours, the scotch untouched. The air was thick with a silence broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. Sarah came home around midnight, her face flushed, her eyes too bright. Long night, she said, forcing a smile. Yeah, I replied, my voice flat. Long night. I didn't confront her then. I didn't shout, didn't cry, didn't accuse. Instead, I retreated. I went to bed, lay beside her, feeling the chasm that had grown between us. She smelled of his cologne. I wanted to vomit. The next morning, I went to the office. I saw David, all smiles and hearty handshakes, asking me about Sarah, about my weekend. The hypocrisy was suffocating. I wanted to punch him, to scream, to tear his world apart. But I didn't. I smiled back, clapped him on the shoulder, and said everything was fine. That was when the plan began to form. Not a plan for a messy, emotional outburst, no. This had to be surgical, precise, and devastating. They both had to pay. My first step was information. I needed to know everything. I started subtly, asking Sarah leading questions, probing for weaknesses, inconsistencies. She grew increasingly nervous, her answers vague and defensive. Then, I turned my attention to David. As his business partner, I had access to his finances, his investments, his deals. And what I found was interesting. David wasn't as squeaky clean as he pretended to be. A few shady investments, a couple of questionable loans, a habit of cutting corners. Nothing that would land him in jail, but enough to cause some serious damage. I started with the investments. I knew David had sunk a considerable amount of money into a tech startup that was teetering on the brink of collapse. I quietly contacted a few investors, anonymously spreading rumors of financial instability and management incompetence. Within weeks, the stock price plummeted, wiping out a significant portion of David's investment. He didn't suspect a thing. He blamed bad luck, market volatility. I played the concerned friend, offering words of support and encouragement, all the while knowing I was twisting the knife. Next, I focused on his professional life. David was a brilliant lawyer, but he also had a massive ego and a penchant for taking shortcuts. I started subtly undermining him, questioning his judgment in meetings, pointing out flaws in his arguments, making him look incompetent in front of clients. I even managed to manipulate Bob Jenkins, a junior associate eager to impress David, into making a crucial error on a major case. I'd overheard David tasking Bob with handling a specific piece of evidence, a euphemism for burying it. I casually mentioned to Bob near the water cooler that I thought the opposing counsel might be aware of its existence, suggesting a preemptive disclosure was the best strategy. Bob, wanting to appear proactive and ethical, immediately alerted the partner in charge of ethics, which set off a chain reaction that seriously damaged David's credibility with the firm. The beauty of it was, I didn't have to do much. David's own arrogance and recklessness were doing most of the work for me. I was simply nudging him along the path to self-destruction. My biggest break came from Mrs. Henderson, our elderly neighbor. She was a busybody, always peering out her window, always knowing everyone's business. One day while I was gardening, she casually mentioned that she'd seen David's car parked outside our house on a Tuesday afternoon a few weeks back, the day Sarah said she had a doctor's appointment. I already suspected they were meeting at our place, but Mrs. Henderson's confirmation was invaluable. It gave me the precise timeline I needed. I used this information to my advantage. I started leaving subtle clues around the house, things that would make Sarah question David's loyalty. A receipt for a dinner at a restaurant he supposedly hated. A business card from a woman he claimed he didn't know. I wanted to sow seeds of doubt, to make her realize that David wasn't the perfect savior she thought he was. It was working. Sarah became increasingly agitated, constantly accusing David of lying, of hiding things. Their relationship was crumbling before my eyes, and I was the architect of its demise. The guilt started to creep in around this time. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Cold, calculating, manipulative. I was so consumed by my desire for revenge that I was losing sight of who I was. I started having nightmares. Visions of Sarah and David, laughing, mocking me. Images of myself, a monster, consumed by hatred. I knew I needed help. Reluctantly, I sought out a therapist, Dr. Anya Sharma. She listened patiently as I poured out my story, my anger, my pain. She didn't judge me, didn't tell me what to do. She simply helped me understand my emotions, to channel them in a more constructive way. Revenge is a dish best served cold, she said one day. But it's still a dish that will poison you if you consume too much. Her words resonated with me, but they didn't stop me. I was too far gone, too invested in my plan. I had to see it through to the end. As David's life began to unravel, he became increasingly paranoid. He suspected I was behind it, but he couldn't prove anything. He started lashing out, accusing me of betrayal, of sabotage. I denied everything, playing the innocent victim. "I don't know what you're talking about, David," I said, my voice dripping with false concern. "But if you need anything, I'm here for you." He glared at me, his eyes filled with suspicion and hatred. "I'll figure it out, Mark," he spat. "I always do." I smiled. "I'm sure you will." The final stage of my plan involved David's finances. I knew he had taken out a large loan to invest in a real estate deal that was on the verge of collapse. I anonymously contacted the bank, providing them with information that raised serious concerns about David's creditworthiness. The bank called in the loan, forcing David to liquidate his assets at a loss. He was financially ruined. His reputation was in tatters. His relationship with Sarah was over. I had taken everything from him. I decided to lure him to a remote cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a place we used to go to when we were younger. I told him I wanted to talk, to try to salvage our friendship. He reluctantly agreed. The drive up was tense. We barely spoke, the silence punctuated only by the crunch of gravel beneath the tires. The air was crisp and cool, the trees ablaze with autumn colors. It should have been beautiful, but all I felt was a cold, hard emptiness. When we arrived at the cabin, it was exactly as I remembered it. Rustic, secluded, a perfect place for a reckoning. I built a fire in the fireplace, the flames casting flickering shadows on the walls. I poured us both a drink, the scotch burning a familiar path down my throat. "So," David said, his voice strained, "what did you want to talk about?" I took a deep breath. "I know about Sarah," I said. "I know everything." His face paled. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me, David," I said, my voice rising. "I know about the burner phone, the hotel receipts, the afternoons at my house when I was out of town. I know everything." He finally cracked. He started shouting, denying everything, blaming Sarah, blaming me. He said it was a mistake, that he never meant for it to happen. "A mistake?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You slept with my wife, David. You betrayed my trust. You destroyed my life. And you call it a mistake?" He lunged at me, his eyes filled with rage. I sidestepped him easily, letting him stumble and fall. "I'm not going to fight you, David," I said. "That's not what this is about." I proceeded to tell him everything. I told him about the investments, the rumors, the bank loan, the junior associate, Bob Jenkins. I told him how I had systematically dismantled his life, piece by piece, all in the name of revenge. He listened in stunned silence, his face a mask of disbelief and horror. When I was finished, he just stared at me, his eyes empty. "Why?" he whispered. "Why did you do this?" "Because you deserved it," I said. "You betrayed me, David. And you paid the price." Just then, the cabin door swung open. Sarah stood there, her face pale and drawn. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice trembling. I looked at her, my heart aching with the pain I thought I had buried. "I wanted you to see this, Sarah," I said. "I wanted you to see what your affair has done to us." I explained to her everything, just as I had explained to David. She listened in horrified silence, her eyes darting back and forth between me and David. When I was finished, she started to cry. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I didn't know it was this bad." "You should have thought about that before you slept with my best friend," I said, my voice cold. David, seeing his last chance at some kind of redemption, tried to appeal to Sarah. He told her that he loved her, that he was sorry, that he would do anything to make things right. Sarah looked at him with disgust. "I don't love you, David," she said. "I never did. I was just lonely." Her words were like a dagger to David's heart. He crumpled to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Seeing him like that, broken and defeated, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no joy, no relief, just emptiness. Suddenly, David lurched toward the fireplace, grabbing a burning log. "I'll destroy everything," he screamed, throwing it towards a pile of old newspapers and kindling. The flames quickly spread, engulfing the cabin in a raging inferno. We all scrambled to escape, coughing and choking on the thick smoke. The cabin, once a symbol of friendship and good times, was now a blazing pyre, consumed by the flames of betrayal and revenge. The authorities arrived quickly. David was arrested for arson and reckless endangerment. The evidence of his financial crimes and ethical breaches was irrefutable. Sarah left me. She said she couldn't forgive me for what I had done, for the monster I had become. I didn't blame her. The legal proceedings against David were swift and brutal. He was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to a long prison term. He lost everything. I sold my house and moved away. I started a new life, a quiet life, far away from the wreckage I had created. But the past never truly leaves you. The memories, the guilt, the emptiness, they linger. I still see Dr. Sharma. She helps me cope with the demons that haunt me, the choices I made, the price I paid for revenge. Was it worth it? I don't know. Sometimes I think it was. Sometimes I think it wasn't. All I know is that I can never go back. I can never undo what I did. I'm at peace, but it's a peace built on ashes. The final time I saw Sarah was at the courthouse during David's sentencing. Her eyes met mine for a fleeting moment, a look of both sadness and understanding passing between us. Then she turned away, walking out of my life forever. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder what she's doing, where she is. I wonder if she ever thinks about me, about us. I wonder if she ever regrets what happened. I hope she doesn't, because I know I will never stop. One crisp morning, years later, I was working in my small architecture studio in Santa Fe when a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. It was a picture of David taken in prison. He looked older, gaunter, his eyes filled with a chilling emptiness. On the back of the photograph, a single word was scrawled, "Checkmate." A cold shiver ran down my spine. The game wasn't over. It had just begun again.